I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. See, we was cool right before it hit your fist, but it hit the fan when I got him down at the bench. But I took a break, I had to leave and go get cleansed. God forgive me for all my sins. I can't say these cause my last name ain't Kent. Cooking on the stove, that's the way he paid the rent. Working on the pole, that's the way she paid tuition. Better watch your soul, cause you know they trying to get it. Yeah, yeah. I learned my right from wrong on a song. I let my heart bleed on my sleeve through microphones. I'm trying to right my wrongs by writing out my wrongs. Ran through a check, cause it's hard to live off bread alone. So if you see me slipping, yeah, let me know. Cause it ain't the end of times yet, I know, but it's getting close. Yeah, I need my space to breathe, that's why I be going ghost. I ain't trying to stay up on that wide road, cause I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. They thinking I'm bluffing, but I promise I do it. That K got a drum, like murder and booming. Sending you verb, if I get my little Uzi. They thinking I'm crazy, I'm gon' see you to hate this. People I'm saying, get what I'm painting. A picture big, I call it little baby. If I'm on the board, then we playing chess. If you on my way, you gon' need a vest. Act big, you might get stretched. All your gun talk, I ain't impressed. My 45 seen real traffic. That's Dallas, Texas. My little partner called a body for a Maserati. He told him get up out the car, hit him with the shotty. That 12 gauge, gave him life in the 12th grade. I tried to write him, but we ain't on the same page. I caught him slipping, I just had to let him know. It ain't the end of times yet, I know, but it's getting close. These demons really out to get you, so you better guard your post. There's certain things I could probably let go, but I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. I can't let them take my soul.
Once again, as many other videos that you've seen. So, I'll start over. As always, this is Mr. Lars, if you please. We're going to have a different kind of stream tonight. It's mainly going to be the story of my coma, where I was at before my coma, and everything else. How you get out of coma, things like that. And this is going to be multiple parts. So you can sit back, listen to this, and try to imagine yourself in that position. It's very, very different to go through. So a few things to update first that I said while my mic was muted a second ago, because if anybody has paid attention to my past videos, they know that happens very often. You know, no matter what you do, you kind of always get nervous putting yourself out there, that kind of thing. It's kind of wild. So anyway, I got the Giphy stuff done. We will start to have some merch and stuff like that very soon. And I wanted to welcome everybody to the stream here tonight. It's a really good thing. So hi everybody. I'm glad you showed up. And for those that are not here live right now, I hope you catch this on the YouTube channel and listen to it. It'll be edited and be a little bit more clean. Then I'll kind of like cut out that BS of me having my mic muted. But that happens often. First off, guys, I wanted to say thank you so much. I feel so blessed and so wonderful that I got my 10 followers that I asked for. And thank you, everyone, for following me. Truly, truly, thank you. As I always say to everybody, any day that I'm breathing oxygen and converting to carbon dioxide and my ass is on the right side of the grass is a great day by me. So that's that. Let's go ahead and get into it. Well, let's start before the coma. I ran a company that had a lot of users and a lot of people all over the United States, and it was very stressful. It was in the communications business, and that's why IT communications specifically. That's why this is called Hate Mail, a love letter to my life, is because when you run a business, it's always requires a large amount of sacrifice, extreme amount of sacrifice, not only personally, but, to the people around you. And my business, over the 15 years of operation, basically ate 2 relationships in a marriage, and then 2 relationships in a marriage. Well, 1 relationship, 1 engagement, and a marriage. And it was a soon-to-be engagement. And, she didn't know, but I'd already bought a ring and everything else, and then things fell apart. And I was planning on some things, but I needed to get to a certain spot. But we'll cover that in a later episode. That's skipping forward in the future. But the point is that when you run a business, it is extreme sacrifice. And any of you that follow me on Instagram know that one of my favorite phrases, and any of you that know me in real life know that one of my favorite phrases is, impossible dreams require an impossible work ethic. And that's very, very true. Anybody out there that's ever ran a business can vouch for that. And it's tough. You do feel isolated a lot of the times, and you have to make decisions that are for the good of the business, not necessarily good of yourself, and not necessarily the good of everybody else. Because the way the equation works is, if the business does well, then everybody else does well, and then you do well. You're literally the last person to always get paid. A lot of people look at this like, hey, you run a business, oh my, you must have money, or you be rich, or something like that. Realistically, there are plenty of times you may project, an image of success and things like that, but literally you are, in crushing, crippling debt, especially in the startup years. And then later on, it gets easier and better as you adjust as you go along. But at the same time, with larger income come larger bills. So, somebody might have, $1,000, $2,000 worth of bills a month, $3,000 worth of bills a month. Well, businesses at higher income rates, have $500,000 bills a month, $40,000 bills a month. So with the larger income comes the larger bills. And that is extremely stressful. And I'm going through this because it has a point, and I will eventually get through it. But I have to highlight a few things. There is a very scary thing in the business world. And this relates to all businesses, not just tech. I'll get to those points in a minute. But it relates to all businesses. If you feel as though sometimes that you need to talk to somebody, it's hard to talk to other business owners because you don't want to show any signs of weakness. And this leads to a lot of mental health problems with small business owners. I myself struggled with them for many years. This is so weird talking about, but I want to offer my story to the world, and hopefully somebody out there can get something from it. I struggled with a lot of mental health issues over the years, ton. People that knew me through these times didn't necessarily always get that I had those problems. And there were a lot of things that I did that I reached out to try to soothe that. But it is rampant in the business world, and especially in the small business world, that people just go unchecked with mental health issues. And if there's anybody out there, I mean, we have more options these days now, like Better Health and things like that. I myself am a customer of Better Health. It does help round me out a pretty good bit. But I didn't reach out for those things before. A lot of times when you're a business owner, you follow the old methods of, if the business needs blood, it's going to take my own, right? So you always kind of put yourself in that point of sacrificing yourself. And while that's a good and honorable thing to do, you always need to keep yourself in check with mental health, because a lot of things can develop. And this brings me to, my problem. I got into a position to where I got into what's called hypnotic rhythm. And hypnotic rhythm is coined by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read any of his books, I recommend Outwitting the Devil. It's my favorite Napoleon Hill book. But he talks in there about hypnotic rhythm. And hypnotic rhythm is when you form a pattern in your life. And patterns to me have always been very, very comfortable. They soothe me, they calm me down, they make my day run, so to speak. And you can establish negative patterns and positive patterns. And a lot of time in businesses, negative patterns and positive patterns just build themselves. You make a positive pattern of waking up early and going to work early and getting a jump on the day, and that's a good thing. And you get into that rhythm, and the more you do it, the easier it is. Same thing with negative patterns. And for me, it was the waking up every day and doing exactly the same thing to start my day. And that's what I loved. It's something that I was really, really into, doing that. And I would wake up every day, and first thing I would do is go and pour one little finger of scotch. And I drank it neat, straight, no ice. And I would down that scotch quickly, step outside, go smoke a cigarette. All right. After that, get dressed, get everything ready. And sometimes the beautiful young lady that I was with at the time, sometimes she would give me a ride to my office, which was right down the road from where I lived. And so I was lucky in that aspect. And she'd give me a ride to the office, and I always liked it because it let me spend a little bit of time with her before I started my day. And she was a surgical nurse, and she would go into the hospital super early. So I would let her just drop me off, and there was no need for me to drive or anything like that. And then I kept a bottle of scotch at my office, and I go in, pour a little finger neat, smoke a cigarette out downstairs, and obviously not in my office. And then I'd come back, and then I would be set fine, and I would start my day and start checking my email and things like that. So I got into that pattern for a little while. It wasn't really bad. It's not like I was getting wasted or anything. I wasn't getting trashed, all that kind of good stuff, but just these tiny little things that I did. And that pattern wasn't always true every day. Sometimes it would go for like 3 or 4 days straight, and then I would take like a week off, kind of thing. And then it would turn into, instead of doing that before work, I would switch the pattern up, and at the end of the day, I would get in that pattern of going and having a drink, going to Grub, or going to whatever, and constantly just repeating that pattern. I found that a lot of people said that my problem at the time was necessarily alcohol. And yeah, it was a problem, but it wasn't a problem how they thought it was a problem. I could anytime, no problem, just give it up. That wasn't a problem at all. I could just give it up and just walk away from it for a month, 2 months, however long I wanted. But I would always go back to the pattern. And during that month to 2 months, no matter what happened, I would establish a new pattern during that month to make myself feel comfortable. And that new pattern would either be, like candy in the morning and like volumes of candy. And when I say candy, I mean like Sour Stripes bag, like this big, and like 6 of them in like a day. Or I would have, 2 energy drinks in the morning and then 2 in the afternoon, which took me above my 2 a day limit that, I was trying to keep myself on. So I established negative patterns in my life. And as long as I had a pattern, I felt safe and comfortable, and I could deal with all the stressors of running a business and things like that. It was very, very difficult to not have a pattern. So going through life like this, you always try to establish patterns. Hell, I still establish patterns now, but I tend to break them more often to make sure that I'm not addicted to the pattern. Because the point is that I didn't necessarily have a problem with alcohol. I had a problem with pattern. Later on during this series of events before my coma, I got into another pattern. And my other pattern was, every single morning, wake up, go get a matcha for her, and get 2 caramel macchiatos for me, and 2 cheese danishes for me, hot. Such a beautiful taste still to this day. Love it. You can establish pattern addiction with anything in the world. My pattern addiction there, because we had moved to Briar Forest and Guessman. And we had a Starbucks really close. And that was how I started my day there when I got to that point. And I would be so addicted to that pattern that if I did not get that in the morning, and I did not spend that money, and I did not have those danishes, and I did not down that 1 caramel macchiato before I got back to the house to bring her matcha and then me have my matcha, it just threw my whole day off. And I just was not happy, at all. So the most dangerous thing that can happen really is pattern addiction. That pattern addiction is so horrible that, if you establish a bad pattern, whether it be health or drinking alcohol or having a billion Starbucks a day or a bunch of energy drinks and a bunch of candy and things like that, that pattern will eventually take its toll on you. It's better to look to see what patterns you have and try to establish positive ones, and anything in excess. Which brings me to my next point. I love Hunter S. Thompson. Hi, thank you for the follow. I love Hunter S. Thompson. So one of the things that he said that I kind of paid attention to was live life through excess and wisdom through excess. And I have had excess of many, many different things. And anything in excess is very, very bad for you. You must always try to find balance, and balance in everything that you do. No matter what patterns you establish, even if they're good ones can turn bad quickly. So, yeah, even with the Starbucks pattern, I was still addicted to patterns. And a lot of people, like I said, sit here and say, oh, you were addicted to alcohol, this, that, and the other. No, it's really not the case. I looked at it and I could give it up anytime, and I stopped drinking, and then went back to it, and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, even still to this day. The thing that got me was my pattern addiction. So, moving on. I had established pattern addiction throughout my life, and as you've heard that I mentioned candy, I mentioned alcohol, I mentioned tons and tons of Starbucks and things like that. And, there's things that all of us have in common. And the thing that all of these have in common is that they really mess up your pancreas when you have them in excess. So, as I was going through my patterns and things like that, I hit a moment to where I was having problems with my pancreas. And I went into the hospital for necrotizing pancreatitis. And that necrotizing pancreatitis took me down, ladies and gentlemen. It was an extreme amount of pain. And there's not much that people can do. Hey, Potato, how you doing, bud? Welcome to the stream. Just kind of going over a big portion of my life, and we're getting up to some moments that I'll explain shortly. So, what I was getting to is that pattern was going in my life, and generally everything that I was doing was extremely unhealthy. Not just physically, but also mentally unhealthy, and it was not a good thing. It really, really wasn't. I damaged myself mentally. I damaged myself physically, but for some reason, I didn't feel a lot of that. I just kind of put it on the shoulders and just kept going with it. Mo, are you Mo, the friend that I had a few years back? And if you are, hey, buddy, man, I miss seeing you. Yes, thanks for joining, man. Thank you very much, man. Not many here visiting, but it's really so I can put this all down and put it on YouTube so people can watch it. So back to what I was saying, it's extremely unhealthy for my life, extremely unhealthy for my mind. With everything, we're running a business, and running a business that large, there's a lot of mental health errors, and there's a lot of incorrect thinking and bad patterns that you establish in your life. And some of them are based off the sheer fact that if you want to make deals, you got to take people out for drinks and things all like that. So, and you can establish a pattern with that. Like there used to be this Thursday night group that I would notice a direct balance in my sheets that next week I would do better in business if I went out that Thursday night with all those guys and made sales and everything else, because that's, how deals are made. So I had necrotizing pancreatitis the first time I went to the hospital, and it was around September 2019, I believe. Yeah, September 2019. And in September 2019, went in there, and then I got out, and the doctors told me, hey, don't drink anything, be very healthy, and this, that, and the other, all the way until the new year, and, then you should be fine. I said, okay, no problem. And I did that. I didn't have a single drink until New Year's Eve, and I know it's cutting short, but even then, I only had like 2 drinks. And I did really good for a while, and I didn't establish a pattern with alcohol during this time, but I did establish a pattern with 2 freaking caramel macchiato ventis and 2 cheese danishes per day. And then I didn't keep track of my health. That was completely my fault. I thought everything was good and fine, and January, February came, all that kind of good stuff, and I got into another pattern of just eating unhealthy and, just extremely bad foods, gas station foods and junk food and things like that, because I like to go to gas stations. I love those things. And I love the little snacks that they had and the candy. Once again, I bring up candy and Starbucks. So I established many cycles of those patterns during that time. And then I went back into the hospital. And at that time, my drinking actually, I didn't really drink that much at that time. During that period, it was the food and the junk that I was consuming. And once again, pancreas, and patched me up, got me better, and I got out, and I was like, okay, well, I need to eat healthier and everything else. I need to eat fresh and all that kind of good stuff. So I did. I started eating healthier, and that's when I moved to Memorial, and I got my dream home. Beautiful, beautiful house. I'll, try to put some pictures of it on Instagram. I think I may have a few. But it was like a tree house for adults. And it was absolutely amazing. I loved that place. It had a beautiful kitchen. I fell in love with it. And when I moved there, did pretty good for a while. I didn't really establish any patterns in the beginning. Everything was kind of happy and all that kind of good stuff. And then, stress started hitting more with work, and things got bigger and things got crazier, and, bigger projects that, when one person is responsible for a certain amount of money, it kind of freaks you out, stresses you out, it's a lot of money. So, I had made a decision at the time that I wanted to try to get away from it and things like that. And I established some more patterns in my life. Once again, candy and Starbucks and things of that nature, because I thought everything was fine. I thought I was all healed and all that kind of good stuff. And then I got off of those for a while. And then, I started shutting my company down. And when I did that, I had a lot of time to myself. And so I drank. And I had good times. I had a lot of fun and things like that. And it's not something I'm proud of. But I didn't realize how much I was drinking. And it was that time that it finally kind of pushed me over the edge. I was eating healthier, but I didn't think that I was doing anything that bad, because I felt great. I felt wonderful all the way up until the day that I came home and sat down, and I had, I think, 2 drinks, I believe. It actually wasn't that much. It wasn't that much. It was just the fact that I was repetitively doing it like every day. Because at that point, the company was shut down. I didn't have anything to do. I was in the middle of building a new company and, kind of just putting things on paper and like drawing it out. So I got into a pattern of, in the afternoon, like on 3-4 o'clock, have 2 or 3 drinks and things like that. And in the morning, combined with me going and getting Starbucks and things in the morning, that is not healthy. But I honestly didn't think I was doing anything wrong. And that's generally how these things go, is you don't notice the things that happen to yourself. And you don't notice some of this stuff. So, excuse me a little bit, it kind of gets to me. I full well admit that, this is something I did to myself. And I realized that. I got into unhealthy patterns again, and I didn't pay attention to it. And it's easy to slip up times, and everybody makes mistakes. There's no reason to chastise somebody over it, as long as they realize it. But the point is that you can be addicted to anything that feels good, tastes good, or whatever. You can be addicted to alcohol that way. You can be addicted to candy. You can be addicted to sex. You can be addicted to playing video games, And when something comes in between you and that pattern, and that's what it was for me, is the pattern that I was stuck in, that I established, and I established multiple of them, and I just said, this will be all right. When I established that pattern, I felt comfortable in that pattern. And when I felt comfortable in that pattern, I let patterns and microcycles take over different portions of my life. And I gave control to those things. So if you find yourself in a loop of pattern addiction, you really have to kind of chop it up into pieces and say, hey, I'm not going to be in this pattern for a while. And that way you don't develop unhealthy habits. And when you're out of the pattern, and when you force yourself out of the pattern, you need to look at that pattern and see if it's really healthy for you or not. And I currently do that. It's kind of like a self-check thing. No matter what pattern I put myself, whether it's wake up at a certain time, this, that, and the other, go to sleep at a certain time, I'll literally write it down on paper and look, hey, am I actually getting enough sleep? Because I got to take better care of myself, obviously. But I'll tell you this. Running a tech communications company, everything before this, it's an environment that is extremely stressful. You have clients all over the United States, and you have to answer to every one of them. When you're the boss, everybody thinks that, you're the boss, you're in charge. It's not necessarily true. One of the things that I constantly wrestled with inside of that position was that, yeah, I'm the boss and I make the decision, but every client that we have is my boss. And every employee that I have is my boss. Because if you don't treat those employees properly, then they'll leave. They'll go. Throughout the years of my company and running my company, even when my company was young, I had people, at one point, I had a very great group of people that I worked with, and it just cratered because I didn't necessarily pay attention to each one of their needs as much as I should have. And I learned from that lesson as I grew the business and as I went forward. And, I have since went and made amends and kind of went to them and said I'm sorry, because I did kind of not pay attention to them, and that wasn't good. I wasn't a good boss at that time, and I had to learn from that situation. So, anywho, a friend of mine just sent a message. Sorry about that. I think this is probably a good time to take a break before we hit the Coma event. If you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to put them in the chat. And after I take my break, I'll come back and address a few questions before we go on to this next part. And this next part will be like the last half of part 1 of this. And when I come back, I'm going to address a few of the business things and talk about that. And then we'll proceed with Hate Man, a love letter to my life. So, see you in a second.
Like the wind, you're like a butterfly, need to be seen. You always need to fly. You always leave. You never tell me where. You need the wind, the wind. It always takes you there. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and calm down my body, baby. I need your healing now, so don't leave. Spare me this feeling. You're like the wind. You're like a butterfly, need to be seen. You always need to fly. You always leave. You never tell me where. You need the wind, the wind. It always takes you there. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and calm down my body, baby. I need your healing now, so don't leave. Spare me this feeling now, but it's okay now, as long as you're here. As long as I know you fly back to me. But it's okay now, as long as you're here. As long as I know you fly back to me. You're like a dream. You're like a waterfall, floating downstream. Once again I fall. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and calm down my body, baby. I need your healing now, so don't leave. Spare me this feeling now, but it's okay now, as long as you're here. As long as I know you fly back to me.
Okay, we're back. Okay, questions? Let me answer the second one before I answer the first one. The worst pattern I made was my drinking, obviously. I would combo that with the candy because really I did consume a lot of candy, and that's one of the big things that did me in, drinking and candy. So the best pattern I made, though, is no doubt that I started this thing of telling the person that I was with how much I loved them and how much how beautiful they were every single day of my life. I tried my best. Some days got busy, but I tried to make sure that they were appreciated. But you know, I say that was my best pattern. Another really good pattern that I made was that every day when I was in the car, I would not just listen to music, I would listen to audiobooks. And those audiobooks I would listen to while I was driving, I would be able to just absorb knowledge as I was driving around instead of like wasting my time. So it's one of those little life hacks that I kind of, got into, and it was pretty neat. Hi everybody, I'm back. This is Mr. Lars, and I'm kind of telling, if you missed the first part, and I'm kind of, telling what I've been through and my life story kind of thing. Not my whole life, obviously. That would be a little bit too much. But anyway, to recap, the business part of it is that I was in tech communications. And one of the reasons I came up with this title, Hate Mail, A Love Letter to My Life, is because realistically, there are so many people there nowadays that they won't pick up the phone call and talk to somebody, and things can be handled a lot faster through communication. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have experienced that in your work or your life or anything like that, but I have many, many times. And through text, like, you can't convey emotions, anything like that, all that kind of good stuff. And I got really annoyed by that. And being somebody that was in that communications industry, I was definitely silent on social media. I didn't need any more communications. I mean, literally, at one point, I calculated it, and I was receiving about 450 emails a day that I at least had to check to see what it said, whether, and some of them were alerts from servers and all that kind of good stuff. And I always did my job very well, and I was always extremely focused on my job and extremely focused on my career. As I said, a relationship and almost an engagement and a marriage is what that company pretty much ate out of my time, because I always put that company above myself. And if I put it above myself, then obviously I'm putting it above the people around me that I loved. And, there were just so many years going through that I didn't really attend family events. And I kind of feel bad about that, because I was working 7 days a week sometimes for 6-7 months straight. Out of that 15 years, I think I took maybe 3 vacations max, and they weren't real vacations. I think there was 1 real vacation during that time, and it was right when I started the company, and it was a week in Mexico. After that, the vacations I took was a week in New Orleans. I mean, not a week, a weekend in New Orleans, or a weekend at Galveston, places that were close that still had connectivity so I could be plugged in and things like that. So that was, that was what it took to do that. And back to the whole thing of people want to, text or email instead of just call. That's why I call it hate mail. It's because I hated my email. I hated communications. There were times that my phone would ring that it would literally just make me angry in my head. Because, as a user, you think, or an owner of a company, because they all had my cell phone number, they think, hey, no big deal, I'll call him. I never call him, and it's been 3 or 4 months since I called him. But when you have thousands of customers and they all have that same mentality, you literally get calls multiple times a day all the time. And they wouldn't call the support line, or they wouldn't email the support desk or something like that. They would just call my cell phone directly. And that was wild. That was really, really wild. Sorry, I keep getting more messages. See, now I'm still getting kind of some messages. Mo, if that's you on Facebook texting me, then yeah, I'm actually going to do a stream on crypto at some point, and I'm going to talk about crypto investing, and I'm going to talk about what the blockchain is. Yeah, I'm going to talk about what the blockchain is and all that kind of good stuff, and I'm going to show people like how blockchains work and things like that, and like what a process blockchain is versus, you know, an open blockchain and things like that, because, you know, a lot of these things, certain blockchains need to be looked at like a commodity, and then certain blockchains need to be looked at like a future when it comes to trading them. Oh, well. All right. Well, if you need some help, I'll be more than glad, and I'll put your name up here and things like that. Yeah, let's talk after the stream. Feel free to give me a call. I'll send you back my cell phone number and we can talk for sure. So yeah, when you run a company of that size and you consult, and, you know, not to kind of toot my own horn kind of thing or anything, but, you know, I do have a master's degree in computer science with an emphasis on numeric theory and logistic algorithms. So you get in a position to where you consult at a lot of different places, and, you know, there are times that you're so busy that you've got to like let work pass kind of thing, and you got to decide what your time is going to be spent on and the best effort there. But people don't talk. They use communications, and if something happens to their communications and you're responsible for hosting their communications, if something goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning for 20 minutes, I guarantee you're getting a phone call from somebody. That's just how it is. And it's a very stressful business to be in, especially since, you know, you start out building your own products, and then a bigger company comes in, and that bigger company you're using for licensing, then they start doing an offering, and then you're allowed to sell it, and it makes your life a little easier. But then they start selling to the public as well at the same time and competing against you while you're selling their product. And, you know, your margins are, you know, 25% at the beginning, but once they start making money, they cut it down to 20%, and then from 20% down to 15%, and it just squeezes that margin, and it squeezes things down, so that adds a whole nother layer of stress. So then you got to start doing volume just to keep up, and, you know, it's kind of crazy how these things work. And if anybody has any more questions about the business or anything like that, I'll be more than glad to answer them. So I'm going to answer the second question now before we move on. Well, actually the first question, because I answered the second question first, and now I'm going to answer that first question from Mako Jojojo. How much did I drink a day? Well, there were weekend days to where I would consume 71 milliliter bottles of scotch, and that's a lot. Off days and things like that, like Thanksgiving and things like that, I would consume like a bottle a day, sometimes 2 bottles a day, and that is a lot of damage to my body. And yeah, so now we get to the point. It was June 7th of 2021. My company was already shut down and moved on, and I was sketching out the stuff for a new company and putting people together to try to build this new company that I'm involved in now. And I can say, this new company, I'm not the boss. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I'm happy working with my machines, and that's where I'm happy at, is in the rear of the gear, and making things, and doing assessments, and incident responses, and things like that. So June 7th, 2021. It'd been about 6 months since I went to the doctor. I kind of went every 6 months, and that day and the day before, I was kind of feeling really tired, and I didn't know why. So I didn't feel that great, and like an idiot, I would, okay, well, I don't feel great, so let me get something to eat. And what do I want to eat? And I'd make something like really bad for me, or order some DoorDash food that was not that great for me, and things like that, and got something to eat and still feel bad. And then I was like, well, let me have a drink, and maybe I just have a drink or two and I'll feel better, and I go on about my day and be happy-go-lucky. Went and had a couple drinks, and that day, like I said, it was literally only like 2 drinks that day. And it's just because my body had so many drinks in it from days prior, and so much bad food in it from the days prior. I just couldn't fight it off. And I was tired, and I was going to go upstairs to lay down. And at the time, the gorgeous and wonderful woman that I was with at the time told me she was going to go to the grocery store and pick up her HEB order. And she asked if I wanted to go, and I said, no, babe, I'm feeling tired. And I said, I'm going to go upstairs and lay down and take a nap. And she said, okay, and she walked out and went to the store. I went upstairs, and I remember going up the stairs, but I don't remember getting to the bed. And when she got home, started bringing in the groceries, and she called for me to help her with the groceries. And I just know this from what she told me. And she called for me to help her with the groceries, and she said, oh, well, he must be asleep. Let me go wake him up because I need some help getting the groceries in. When she went up to wake me up, she found me on the ground as if I had went to lay down and just missed the bed completely. And my mouth was open, tongue hanging out, eyes open, and I was just there. She thought I was dead. I will say this. I owe my life to her. She's a surgical nurse in downtown, and she's one of the best nurses in the world. The skill set that she has is amazing. She's extremely impressive. That's one of the things that always drew me to her. Is like her, I was serious about my career, and she was very serious about her career, and she's very, very good at what she does. And I think my lucky stars she was there that day, because she was able to do what was right, get an ambulance there quick, make sure I was okay, and she got me to the hospital, and well, ambulance got me to the hospital, but she got everything taken care of and got me into a position that they could get me, and she took care of me in that moment, and I owe my life to her. I got taken to the hospital to Memorial Hermann, and I ended up dying, basically, for about 48 seconds, and then I was brought back. It's hard to say how I feel about these things. It's very, very difficult, because that was the moment that my life completely changed forever. They were able to get me stabilized, brought me back and everything, and I went into a diabetic coma for about a week and a half. But when I went into that coma, that was the moment that my life switched and changed forever. And I full well accept my responsibility of what I did to put myself there. I don't try to push off on anybody anything. It's full well my fault. 100%. Yeah. Let me take a small break, and I'll be right back, and then we'll finish up this piece, and I'll answer any more questions that you guys have. So let me take a break real quick. Thanks.
like a dream. You're like a waterfall floating downstream. Once again I fall. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and calm down my body, baby. I need your healing now. So don't leave. Spare me this feeling now. But it's okay now. As long as you're here. As long as I know. You fly back to me. But it's okay now. As long as you're here. As long as I know. You fly back to me. But it's okay now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, okay now. But it's okay as long as you're here. It's okay now. As long as you're here. As long as I know. You fly back to me, baby. It's okay now. You're like the wind. You're like a butterfly. Need to be seen. You always need to fly. You always leave. You never tell me where. You need the wind, the wind. It always takes you there. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and calm down my body, baby. I need your healing now. So don't leave. Spare me this feeling now. But it's okay now. As long as you're here. As long as I know. You fly back to me. But it's okay now. As long as you're here. As long as I know. You fly back to me. You're like a dream. You're like a waterfall floating downstream. Once again I fall. Always the same routine in the morning. You always leave me without a warning. Without you here, babe, I'm feeling lonely. Come on and
Okay, I'm back. Sorry for that. A little break. Talking about this stuff is difficult, man. It really is. And yes, my drinking did cause my coma, along with a few other things. Bad diet, bad health, and this, that, and the other. It was a big deal. Oh, hey, Keone. How's it going, buddy? Keone is here. You can moderate the chat now. How you been, bud? I haven't seen you in forever. You need to come by sometime, and we need to shoot the shit. So, to continue my story. Yeah, man. Hey, man. Yeah, what caused my coma for sure was partially my drinking and partially my diet. And what happened, I'm glad to see you're doing good, man. I'm glad to see you're doing good. So what happened was, at the age of 39, I usually go to the doctor about every 6 months, get a little checkup, that kind of thing, and I got worse at that. You know, I wasn't always on time, and I told you guys that about what happened, and the girl, the woman that I was there with, she saved my life, and I owe my life to her, and I will never be able to repay that debt, no matter what. It's a huge thing to actually owe your life to somebody, and she did. She saved my life that day. I can't sing her praises enough. She's an amazing person. I guess like in the notes of the show or something, I'll ask her, obviously, because, you know, I don't want to break privacy or anything, but, you know, in the notes of the show later on or something like that, I'll leave some notes here if down there at the bottom. If she's okay with it, then, you know, I'll tag her like Instagram. You can follow her, all that kind of stuff. She's gorgeous and an amazing person. But yeah, I full well accept that it was my fault that I ended up in that way. When somebody admits that, you know, it's a really tough thing to admit, especially when you have a lot of things going for you, this, that, and the other, and then it's your own mistakes. They kind of sink you. But you've got to stand up and face those mistakes, and once you face them, then you kind of control them and get your hands on them. So my life changed that day. 48 seconds dead on the table. They brought me back, but I was in a coma. And going into that coma, it changed literally everything in my life. Part of me remembers being dead, and it, to me, just felt like I was flying across a smooth glass, perfect, still body of water into whatever was there. It was really peaceful, and that, you know, that was that. So, to continue on, I was stabilized. They brought me back at the time because their hospital was full of COVID in the ICU. I had to be shipped to the good folks out at Pearland Hospital. And they had a room for me, and they were able to take me in, and they were able to take care of me and hook me up to all kinds of hoses and tubes and all that kind of good stuff, and kind of hold on to me there. Now, when you go into a coma, your brain is under shock, your body's under shock, and all that kind of good stuff. But I don't necessarily want to get in that on this stream. That's going to be in part 2 that I want to do later. I will say tune into that, please, because yeah, that's going to be that's a thing. That's a real thing. Their coma brain is a real thing. So we'll get into that next time. But this time I can't sing that girl's praises enough, and the people around me that cared enough and tried to do what they could do for me. It's a funny thing when you lead people and you try to do the right things in the right path, and you constantly put that company and everybody else above yourself. You know, like I said, it's hard to put anybody else first. And when you are the boss, literally every client is your boss, and every employee is technically your boss. And over the years, it takes its toll on you. In this episode, I really want to tell everybody to pay attention to that. And if you know somebody that owns a business, and if something kind of seems not right or they're establishing bad patterns in their life, reach out to them and try to talk to them, because it is very bad that, we show this as like a sign of weakness or something like that when we shouldn't, and we let those mental health issues just sit there and boil and boil and boil and boil. I always tried to look after my employees. Over the years, I learned to try to pay attention more to them, and anytime they had problems, I would try to work their problems out and help them with that. And it was difficult to do that when you have your own problems to deal with, but at the same time, you to be a good leader, you have to care for the people around you, and you have to care for those that are under your command, so to speak. And it's a tough position to be in, especially when dealing with your own things. So at this point, I'm going to say I'll leave this on a positive note. As everybody knows me now, knows that I'm an extremely positive person. And this experience that I had has made me a positive person and made me a heck of a lot more positive. There are so many situations there people are negative and dwell on their own problems, and they don't actually, think about how it can be a good thing. Man, I love you, Keone. I love you, brother. Truly do. Thank you for that. Thank you. I gotta take a breath on that one. It's a wonderful thing to hear, and thank you so much. And I thank you for the years that you did work with me, and I thank you for everything that you put in. The company could not have been what it was without your help. Everybody that came through brought their own things to it, and it is an amazing thing to see something like that so small grow that large, and almost gets away from you, really. It's very stressful. But Keone, to you, thank you for everything that you've ever done, man. Everything. I wish there was a way that I could repay you, but I know that there's nothing that I could do to repay you for that. And I know, it's just life, things coming together that way. It's crazy. So anyway, let's leave this on a positive note. At that point, that changed my life literally forever. I don't like my tie clip being crooked. It bothers me. So that moment, my life changed pretty much forever. And I learned to be, at that point, because I went through that, I learned to completely love every moment that I have. And a positive attitude is the best thing in the world to have. Because someone with a negative attitude about things that dwells in their problem never helped anyone around them and never helped themselves until they change. I love you, man. Really, dude, don't do this to me, man. I already had to take one emotional break here. I don't want to take another one. But I'm glad to hear that I helped somebody. And that's, in my heart of hearts, that's always what I wanted to do. But, I got stuck in some bad patterns that I created for myself. And I do accept the responsibility of where I ended up because of that. And I think that a lot of times people forget to do that. And for me, I found it very, very important, and that's why I'm doing this, is I found it very important that what my story was and what happened with me and how I fell into those pitfalls of things and everything along the way, I think it's very important that I share that. And I think it's very important that I break the silence on the mental health issues that are related to people that own businesses and start businesses. It tears you apart. Each time I had to put my company above who I was in a relationship with, which is horrible. Each time I had to do that, knew that I was working towards something greater, but at the same time, I sacrificed that. And there were relationships there that I sacrificed that I really shouldn't have sacrificed. I wish I had those chances back, really. But at the same time, I am where I am, and I've made it here. So I will always keep a positive attitude now. I'll always look to help out those other people around me. And that's what I want to bring through this message. I know it seems all sad now, but there is a happy ending to this, and there can be a happy ending for everybody around. We really need to break that silence on these things and recognize that some of these people are in pain, in absolute, utter pain, but they can't show it because it is a sign of weakness. I know it sounds silly, but it's actually true. So, everybody, this has been episode number 1 of Hate Mail, a love letter to my life. And next time when we come back, I'm going to do a little recap for the people that weren't there. I will be editing this video and dropping it down to YouTube, and I will have all of that stuff done as soon as possible. So check out my YouTube channel, check out my Facebook, check out my Insta. I'm on Insta a lot, so if anybody wants to say hi. Mo, by the way, you know Keone. So Mo, if you're still here, man, that's Keone. Mo from Tuesdays, man. Mo from Tuesdays. You know that. I would love to see your response on that one. So, this is Mr. Lars. Once again, signing off. Stay focused. Stay positive. I'm out.
Oh, I can't let him take my soul. I can't let him take my soul. Nah, no. Oh, I can't let him take my soul. Nah, no. See, we was cool right before it hit the fence, but it hit the fan when I got him down at the bench. When I took a break, I had to leave and go get cleansed. God forgive me for all my sins. I can't say these cause my last name ain't Ken. Cooking on the stove, that's the way he paid the rent. Working on the pole, that's the way she paid tuition. Better watch your soul, cause you know they trying to get it. Yeah. I learned my right from wrong on a song. I let my heart bleed on my sleeve through microphones. I'm trying to right my wrongs by writing out my wrongs. Ran through a check, cause it's hard to live off bread alone. So if you see me slipping, yeah, let me know. Cause it ain't the end of times yet, I know, but it's getting close. Yeah, I need my space to breathe, that's why I be going ghost. I ain't trying to stay up on that wide road, cause I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. They thinking I'm bluffing, but I promise I do it. That K got a drum, like murder and booming. Sending you verb, if I get my little Uzi. They thinking I'm crazy, I'm gon' see you the haters. People I'm saying, get what I'm painting. A picture big, I call it little baby. If I'm on the board, then we playing chess. If you on my way, you gon' need a vest. Act big, you might get stretched. All your gun talk, I ain't impressed. My 45 seen real traffic. That's Dallas, Texas. My little partner called her body for a Maserati. He told him get about the car, hit him with the shotty. That 12 gauge, gave him life in the 12th grade. I tried to write him, but we ain't on the same page. I caught him slipping, I just had to let him know. It ain't the end of times yet, I know, but it's getting close. These demons really out to get you, so you better guard your post. There's certain things I could probably let go, but I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, no. I can't let them take my soul.